video describes the Egg Drop Parachute PBL. In this activity, the students will be able to create a design and construct a parachute using various polygons. Using the parachute, an egg will be dropped from the second floor of a building without breaking. This activity requires 8 class periods to complete. The current PBL is aimed at high school students as they are required to use math content including trigonometry. Teachers can use online games and videos to engage students in this activity. Students will have an opportunity to use concepts that they have previously learned, such as velocity, gravity, geometric shapes, and so on. A brief revision of the related math and physics content will be beneficial for the students. Narrating a story for the students to understand the situation is a really good way to start engaging them. This PBL can be used to teach multiple science and math concepts. The objectives of the PBL are to teach students about different natural forces such as gravitational force, electromagnetic force, and nuclear force. They will also be able to learn about laws of conservation of energy and momentum and distinguish between kinetic and potential energy. The students will also be able to use algebraic equations in situations involving numbers and geometric shapes. They will also use tools to measure and construct various geometric shapes. The students will be able to make the following STEM connections. In science, they will learn to apply principles of relationship between force and motion and plan and implement investigations. In technology, they will conduct effective internet searches and recognize reliable internet sources, select appropriate technology to help solve the problem. In engineering, they will learn to use iterative problem-solving process and select appropriate tools to solve problems. In mathematics, they will use Pythagorean theorem, solve mathematical equations using proportions and scaling. The following story can be used as a student introduction for the present PBL. A parachute company would like for a student team to design a parachute that can hold a maximum of 1,500 pounds and fall from a height of 20,000 feet. They would also like for the cargo to fall as slowly as possible without breaking the fragile contents inside. The task will be to create a parachute model using the egg drop egg that can later be built to scale and has an accurate time measurement of drop time. The parachute company wants a thorough analysis because they have limited supplies and funding for the project. The students will use the following materials: string, scissors, fabric, scale or ruler, a knife, cups either plastic or paper, a spring gauze, plastic wrap, and an egg, and a stop clock, and craft sticks. The first 3 days of the PBL may be used to engage the students in the project and letting them research about the topics. Introducing the students to a background story helps them understand the purpose of the project. In order to make it more applicable, the relevance of each individual topic can be discussed. For example, to introduce drag force, allow the students to think, how do you feel when you put your hand out of a moving car? You experience the wind pushing it backwards. Similarly, why is it harder to walk in a swimming pool? Because the water is resisting your movement. Once the students sufficiently understand the expectations of the project, they may be allowed to research and explore parachutes using the internet. may be interesting for the students to start by looking at the development of parachutes historically, or looking at different shapes of the parachutes as shown in the picture. Some complementary topics that are required for the PBL to be completed are gravity, density of air, and velocity. Students may be asked to look for these topics on the internet to learn more. Since the egg drop experiment has been commonly performed, students might be able to find similar projects online. They can look at these online projects and the results to understand different possibilities of making egg drop parachutes. Finally, at the end of day 3, students will, in small groups, have a preliminary plan and a pictorial representation of how their project will look. The students are then provided with the materials that they require to start constructing their parachutes. Therefore, within the first 3 days, the students are familiar with what the project is, how they are going to approach it, and they have an idea of the materials and the constraints that they can have during the project. The next 2 days, day 4 and day 5, will involve a little bit of direct instruction by the teacher on topics that the students need to finish their projects. The physics underlying the flying of a parachute must be explained. The formula governing the motion of a parachute can be explained based on the topics that students have already been exposed to, such as drag force and gravitational acceleration. In addition, the role of potential and kinetic energy must be taught to explain the impact an egg might experience on landing. Students may be allowed to think about how the egg may be saved from breaking. The instruction must not be constrained to a parachute alone, but must be able to be extended to any free-falling object. Another area that students might require instruction in is trigonometry. In order to equip students to make geometric calculations later on in the project, they need to know basic formulas and values of cos, sine, and tan. The students will be using different angles and side measurements to construct polygons and eventually a parachute. Thus, by the end of the 5th day, they have an idea about the constraints, materials, and requirements of the project, along with information required about the physics underlying the parachute, and also the mathematical ideas required to construct a parachute. On the 6th and 7th days, students will construct the parachutes based on their plans in small groups. Once they finish the construction, they will be allowed to test their models and make necessary adjustments. Actually seeing their model at work might change their hypotheses or design. For example, a parachute works fine, but the holder for the egg is unstable, causing the project to fail. Such projects must be immediately corrected. Once the groups have had a chance to try out their models and make adjustments, a member from the group presents the group's plan and construction process to the class. This exercise is necessary to ensure that students are able to communicate their ideas and their understandings effectively, and also use technology for presentations. On the final day, projects will be evaluated based on rubrics either provided by the PBL book or created by the teacher themselves. The projects can be evaluated on how well they follow the constraints, how well it has been constructed, the use of creativity and subject knowledge. The students can also be evaluated based on their presentations. As an extension to the process, we may observe that all students are not successful in completing the project So, explaining to the students why a project was successful or unsuccessful is beneficial to enhance their learning. Finally, students may be asked to create reports about their project as a group, explaining their success, failure, and their learning.